Welcome to another episode of the Forging Better Humans podcast. The goal of all of these episodes is one, to give you some information to help to make you a better human being, but two, is to introduce to you some folks that are instrumental here at Iron Legion in that process and actually even products of that process, other members that have come in here as well. But Wayne is actually on our team here at Iron Legion as a coach. And he's been here for quite a bit. He has a pretty interesting story to tell. I wanted to take a couple minutes to introduce my man, Wayne Smith. Wayne has been here at Iron Legion, I think we're coming on probably 11 years, right? 10 or 11?
Yeah.
So probably almost the whole time. I think about a year afterwards you guys came on board.
Yeah.
Yeah. So you guys have been here for a minute, you and Regina both. Kind of been growing up together, been training together for a long time. So go ahead and introduce yourself. Talk about, what you do for a living and, where you're from originally, stuff like that.
Okay. Well, like I say, my name is Wayne. I'm from a small town called Archer. This is just outside of Gainesville. Grew up. Went to Newberry High School. Played football, basketball, ran track there. Did a little bit of everything that, country boys do in high school. I work for the Florida Department of Corrections. I'm a captain there now, and doing that this year make 26 years, which I still can't believe.
Wow.
Yeah. So, been with Florida Department of Corrections for 25 years. I was on their rapid response team, which is like the riot squad, for about 17, 18 years. I'm instructor for Florida Department of Corrections and College of Central Florida. I instruct their defensive tactics, firearms, and the general education as far as law enforcement goes. So, been doing a lot of law enforcement work for a while now.
Some hefty street cred.
Yeah.
So something like this, the training systems that we have here at Iron Legion, like what attracted to this type of training style?
Like most, years ago before CrossFit even came about, I was one of the ones, look at a magazine, see a workout, do that for a while, flip through a few more pages, find another workout, do that for a little while. But once I started actually getting into my job, once I got onto the RRT team and knowing the physical stuff that we had to do monthly and daily, and then actually just doing my job in general. 1 minute you could be sitting still, and the next thing you know, you got to take off running because you have a situation that you have to take care of.
Right.
So trying to find something that fit what I was doing was kind of hard in the beginning. Seeing an article on CrossFit, read it, was talking about, this new concept and all that kind of stuff. Didn't get into it then because, you read a lot of articles, people always come up with something new, and then it's like it fizzles out later on down the line. Me and the wife started doing the videotape things, the CDs, the P90Xs, the Insanity.
I remember all that.
Yeah.
We're about the same age, so we came up through all that same
shit.
shit.
The tap outs. The tap out was the worst. Oh my God, I don't even know why they came up with that one.
Yeah.
But we did those for a while. One thing about my wife, she gets bored with stuff kind of quickly. She need to keep sparking, the interest a lot of times. Me, I get on something, I just do it. If it's something need to be done, I need to do.
Just dig.
Yeah. So once we kind of ran into another gym that we had started out with, which we ended up coming up from y'all, Hammers, they had their own version of CrossFit. They didn't call it CrossFit, but that's what it was.
Right.
Started doing that, and I noticed that it fit more with helping me be ready for every day than what I was doing.
Right.
Because, I was for the regular system, you got chest day, back day, arm day, leg day. But when it comes down to our job, you need your whole body every day, all day.
You need to be able to turn it on quick.
Turn it on quick.
Yeah.
And a lot of people don't understand working in the field that we work in. You could be very idle till it's like nothing going on, and then in a split second you go into total chaos.
Right.
And if your body's not able to go back and forth like that, it could end up being detrimental to you. Because we found a lot of just in correction officers in general, a lot of times when they leave the job, within 5 to 10 years, they're dead. Because their bodies are so in tune with being so high, and then they coming back down and they don't have that middle point to keep them focused, something end up happening to them.
So that's all the time. So they're experiencing that stuff every single
and your
day.
body's under stress all the time, and then you take that stress away, and then the body don't know what to do with itself.
Right.
So once I started coming across CrossFit and knowing how it made me feel better every day, helped me do my job every day, and I felt like I looked a lot better than what I was looking like. Because at one point I had got up to like about 260, close to 270 at one point.
Okay.
I realized when I bent over to tie my shoes and I couldn't breathe. I almost choked myself out just tying my shoe. I was like, oh, I got to do something.
Got to fix this.
Something has to be done. So got into that, and like they say, once you drink the Kool-Aid, it's over. It's been over for me for the last 10 years. I've go on vacations, go to the global gym and stuff like that. I think we did that one time. We went to Tennessee just to get a workout in. We was in there like 10 minutes, and my wife like, I can't do this.
It's boring, man.
It's boring.
Yeah.
She was like, it's the music is garbage. It's just people just there. And she's like, I can't do this. We got to get out of here.
Yeah.
So, and I preach it every day because it seems like because the people at work know what I do outside of work, that's all they want to talk about every single day.
Yeah, I mean, I was going to kind of bring that up too. Like you strike I hate to use a cliche type term, but you strike a pose when you walk in a room. Like it's obvious.
Yeah.
You do something different, right? And I'm willing to bet, even in a corrections facility, that you stand out.
Yeah.
So like your employees that work there, you are a captain. Like it's something that we've talked about with James, with firefighters, and we talked about with Casey, with police officers, different things like that. We find that your run-of-the-mill normal employee type, they may not necessarily take their training very seriously.
Mm-hmm.
It's more of a punch in the clock coming in, doing their time and getting out, and they're not necessarily focused on taking care of their bodies. You find that's also the case in corrections, or is it?
It's worse. It's worse. It's a lot worse because you have a lot of idle time in corrections. And like I say, you was spending upwards sometimes 2 to 3 hours where all you're doing is writing stuff down and watching what's going on. You may take a walk around in the pod areas for a few minutes, but that's like the most of your day.
Okay.
And you have like days that goes on, and then like one day, an hour within that day, everything goes off, and now you got to get to moving.
Right.
And that's generally how it goes. And
well, you're talking moving. Is that moving like putting hands on people?
Go from a straight sprint to putting hands on people. Now I'm wrestling with somebody for the next 2 or 3 minutes, trying to get them in the right position.
And they're fighting for their life, and they're
fighting,
already in jail.
And they're already in prison. They really don't have nothing else to live for, so they just gonna do whatever they gotta do. So you have to make sure you walk out of there every day. So that was part of the reason I became an instructor, also because a lot of the people that were coming in, they did not understand what they were really walking into.
Right.
And it just seemed like, oh, it's an easy job. Yes, it could be an easy job, but I've known a lot of fellow officers that didn't walk out of there, got carried out of there.
Oh yeah.
So if you're not ready, something can happen to you. So I tell them every day, if you just get up and do something 5-10 minutes a day, do something. Don't just sit on it all day long.
Right.
And you have so many of them that are obese, they can't run 10-15 yards and then have to stop to catch their breath.
Yep.
And I tell them every day, if you can't breathe and take care of yourself, how can you help me?
You put you at risk.
Yeah, put me at risk.
And your other team members at risk. Yeah.
Yeah, so I preach it every day. I try to live it every day. And like you say, a lot of times, like I had like one of my supervisors, she was like, I'm your supervisor, but when you walk in the room, it's like I feel like I need to sit up and straighten myself up when you walk in the room. I was like, well, why do you say that? She's like, it's just how you carry yourself. I was like, well, I think I'm supposed to carry myself where I represent myself and the company, so I should do that. So, but yeah.
Well, when you walked in last night, I mean, dressed out, you got the badge on, the white, everything. When he walk, you command respect when you walk in. Like I'm kind of an anti-authority kind of guy, but when you walked in, I was like, all right, yeah, I like that. That looks good. So, we're talking hands-on with people. Is it in a scenario like that? Now we're talking about we've got a team of guys that potentially they might not be taking themselves too seriously, but they are probably checking the boxes off for their job to maintain their job, which is enough. You guys create bare minimum standards. I'm sure you test those standards.
Oh, yeah.
Those guys are doing those things and they're making those marks and they're able to do that. But you're right, on the line when it comes down to, now we've got somebody that's crazy. Is is it overwhelming force that subdues that person? So it's, you know, it's 8 of you guys versus just 1 or 2, or is it you're throwing as many people at it as you can?
You're lucky if you have 4 sometimes.
Lucky if you have 4.
Yeah.
Okay.
And we're trying, being that our staffing levels have been so low, you know, you sometimes where it's just the 2 of you having to deal with a situation.
Okay.
So and
How often does that? I mean, it's always probably in your favor, but sometimes it goes.
A lot of times,
longer than it
but
should.
a lot of times you do have that situation, and we trying to get to the point of where people understand how dangerous that could be.
Yeah.
And yeah, I preach every day in the situation that we're in. You got to think about your own self first.
Right.
And you know, yeah, you may think you capable of handling a certain situation, but if you have somebody that's overly high on whatever they done got hold of that day on the compound, that puts them above what you're at already.
Yeah, that's true.
And if you're not somewhat physically capable, you're gonna run into a problem.
Okay.
And the drugs are so bad and prevalent in our system now that at any given time you can run across somebody that's high or something. Within the last 2 days, I've had to have inmates drug testing, and they was high as a kite.
So I think your normal listener would say, you know, you probably have it a little easier than your normal cop because your cop's going to be dealing with drugs all the time. Prison should be controlled, right?
It should be controlled, but
it ain't.
The fact of the matter is, when you have police officers, everybody they deal with is not going to be a criminal.
That's true,
Everybody they deal with is not going to be, you know, that instance of, I might have to fight for my life. Yeah, they do have that instance.
Right.
But in my setting, everybody there is a criminal.
Every single person.
Every single person.
Yeah.
Everybody's a criminal, and you don't know what type of background they have had. So the potential of something happens just about every day.
Well, now the mental side of it, you brought that up the other day. You know, you just kind of touched on it there for a second. You don't necessarily know what each one of those guys brings to the table, these criminals, right?
Mm-hmm.
And you had brought up a good point that sometimes you don't want to know.
Yeah.
Right? Because there's some stuff that you don't want to take home. And you don't want to be treating people a certain way or a different way because you know this or this. You really just want to treat them as a prisoner and be able to go home or however, you know, that normal.
Yeah, you teach that every day because I have a lot of new officers be like, oh, I need to see what they did. No, you don't need to see what they did because if you see
they're
what
already
they did,
here.
That's all you need to know. You know what I mean? And if you look up and see a lot of the stuff that people do, because, you know, we have to deal with 2 aspects of, they are criminals, and then we have to deal with their families that's saying, oh, well, they just did this and that and the other, and then you try to keep it in the middle ground because if I look and see what certain ones did, and then you like, why are you still alive?
Right. That was what started our conversation not too long ago. Like,
Yeah.
I would have a tough time with that.
Yeah,
and that's when
and
you
you
brought up that, like, I may not read up on that just because of that reason.
Yeah, because, and I stopped watching a lot of news, especially in the position that I am, because, you know, especially if in Florida, and then I see a news release of this person did this, and then I'm like, okay, I'll be seeing you soon.
You will be in my place.
Yeah. So you have to be able to separate the two. And I tell new officers every day, do not look up what they do because then your reaction to them is going to be other than what it should be.
Right, and that could potentially put them in a risky situation.
You're going to do something that you don't need to do, and then now you fighting for your job or even your freedom because you thought about what they did.
Right, and they're already being tried.
Yeah, it's not our job to punish them. We just got to keep them there.
Right. So, I mean, the mental aspect of it, the training aspect, you know, CrossFit, the type of training that we do here works on that fight or flight symptoms. Like, they help create that. Obviously gives you the strength, the confidence, those types of things, moving in those types of scenarios. But I guess also a mental release from dealing with that kind of shit, being able to come into a place where you're in a positive environment. Everybody in here is kind of training for the right thing, for the right reasons, good vibes, that type of shit. I mean, does that...
Yeah, I tell people that every day. I had to refocus on that also because I had kind of lost that focus for a minute. That this is where my release comes in because I can't find it out there, and you know, throwing some weight around and moving some weight helps me get that full release.
Yeah.
And dealing with the mental aspect of it, especially with our job, I tell the officers every day, this job is not for everybody.
Right.
You have to have a certain mindset to be able to do this job. And if you don't have that mindset or if you don't find that mindset, the job is going to become very difficult.
Right.
Because I had one young lady that I was working with, And the whole time I'm looking at her, I'm like, we need the help, but you don't need to be here.
Right.
This is not for
It's
you.
not your jam.
No,
There's other jobs out there.
You're going to become more of a liability than anything. I was like, as much as I know people need jobs and this, that, and that, this is not for you.
Right.
Yeah.
Well, that'd be. I mean, you could end up in a lineup fighting for your life. Like it'd probably be smart.
Yeah,
to
and
manage the
then another thing that helps out, especially when it comes to, I've learned with CrossFit and stuff like that, and I tell people every day, I was like, how many times have you pushed yourself to a point of where you don't think you could make it, but you make it? And then he was like, well, hardly ever. I said I do it every day in the gym.
Right. You do it every day in the gym. That way, when you have to do it, you have to do it.
I tell them, I know that, yeah, I am getting tired, but if you give me 10 to 15 seconds to catch my breath, you got a problem.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. I have no doubt.
Yeah. So, and I was like, you don't want to get to that point, because I've been there in my life to where you don't fought so long to where you can't lift your arms. You can't move. And now you like, how much longer am I going to fight before I get help?
Yeah.
And I was like, dealing in CrossFit, we deal with that mental aspect of, am I going to finish this? Can I finish this? And then when I do finish it and catch my breath for a minute, I'm like, hey, that wasn't
I recovered and I can go back.
Yeah, I can go back and do it again. And I was
Yep.
like, if you don't put yourself through that aspect at least once or twice a week, what are you doing?
Right.
Because when we first started CrossFit, me and my wife first started CrossFit, and we started doing some of the workouts. I remember one workout, I was on the floor. It was like a pause in between when you got to rest and then before you got ready to start out again. I was on the floor. I'm looking over at her. She looking at me. I was like, all she got to do is get up, and I'm leaving with her.
It's going to be the end
It is.
of this
We
shit.
are done. But she didn't leave, so I didn't leave.
Yeah.
And then at the end of it, I was like, I was just waiting for you to quit, and I was going to quit. She was like, I was waiting for you to quit. You didn't quit.
That's a good team, man.
Yeah, and then,
Hold each other accountable.
and then she was like, and then after we was over, I was like, we coming back tomorrow? She was like, yeah.
And you've been coming back for a
Yeah,
long
been
time.
coming back a long time.
So we have combatives that we teach here at the gym, and grappling, jiu-jitsu, different things like that. And you made a comment one day. I kind of thought you were going to jump on board with that, want to jump in and roll around with us a little bit. And you were like, listen, and I thought it would relate to your job. And I still feel like it does, but you made an excellent point one day, and I stopped asking. And you were like, Ted, man, if I get on the fucking ground, it's over. Like,
Yeah.
if those inmates get me on the ground, or any of my guys on the ground, I'm in a bad situation. He says, my whole thing is to stay on my feet.
Yeah.
We have to stay on our feet. Like, everything is moving so fast, and we can't really afford to be on the ground. So talk about I know you guys are doing some type of physical training. Is it, I'm sure it's not a boxing or a Tai Bo class, right? Like,
No.
it's real on, it's hands-on.
Most of our stuff is hands-on. More of the stuff that we teach, and we're expanding on that. Like a lot of stuff with the grappling, we're adding that in because, like you said, it does translate to our job. Because once you end up on the ground, if you're not able to maneuver yourself, especially if you're by yourself, yeah, you got a problem. And that's what I told you. If I end up on the ground, I'm in a bad spot.
Yeah.
That's where that comes into effect. But what we teach is always being the one on top. We don't want to be the one on the bottom.
Well,
me
I hate being on the bottom.
And the aspect of our job is to end the threat as quickly as possible. So a lot of stuff that we teach when it comes to hand-on is to end that situation as quickly as possible in controlling the subject and getting them secured, handcuff-wise and leg irons-wise. So we do striking, we do manipulations of the body, we do takedowns and stuff like that. We work takedowns every day because we want to end on the ground, but we want to end up on top on the ground, not up on the bottom. If you like I said, if I'm on the bottom, I got a problem.
Oh yeah.
Because if I end up on the bottom inside of a pod with $175 criminals, I got a major problem.
Big problem.
Yeah. Whether it's male or females, I got a problem.
Yeah.
So my mindset is to stay on my feet and control the situation. So those are the type of combat situation that we're in, and now we're starting to implement more the BJJ type stuff to, if I end up on the ground, what will I do? Because we find a lot of officers, being that our staffing has been so low, that end up in a fight by themselves. Just 3 months ago, we had a female officer at the male prison that had to fight a male off by herself.
And she was capable of it?
She was capable of it, and I think her fight or flight really took in. That would help her out a lot, but she had been doing a lot more of the training that we had been implementing.
Good.
And that helped her basically to stay alive long enough to help to get there.
Right.
So we had to start adding that in because of staffing levels. We don't outnumber them a lot of time when it comes to situations.
Right.
We don't outnumber at no time, but in certain situations sometimes we can outnumber them with staffing levels. But being at our levels have been so low for so long, we had to come up with something else.
Yeah, or you have
And
authoritative force too in numbers.
Yeah, and that's one thing that we try to implement. Don't go into something by yourself. If at least two of you are there, you have a better chance than just one of you going in that
Right.
situation. So yeah.
Interesting. Well, I'd like to see you on the mats. I think I'll see you guys more.
Yeah,
And
I've
again,
thought about it, but I just can't get my mind wrapped around being down like that. I just can't.
Yeah, it could save you.
Yeah.
Could save you one day. But your guys need it.
Yeah.
I know that you're bringing people in from time to time. Some of them stick, some of them don't.
Mm-hmm.
I'd have to say the majority of them don't. But there's been a few recently that I've been seeing pretty consistently, and I'm super proud of them. I like that they're doing it, and you're seeing big changes in their life. That's some stuff that maybe we can help with too, like pushing them towards the mats, and then we can kind of help on that side as well. I'm always want to help out, man.
Yeah.
And I know that they've got
talking,
your back, so I want to have your back.
I was just talking to one of the team members. Since I've gotten off of our teams, they still be trying to get me to get back on. I'm like, man, that's for y'all young cats. Now y'all go, y'all can have that. But I was talking to them, and I'm like, look, if y'all looking for something extra to add to y'all training, because I used to bring them every once in a while, and I was like, I get with the owner, come up there, we work something out to where, y'all can come up there because you need more than what you get.
You know I'm always there.
Oh, yeah.
So your coaching journey since you've gotten here, like you've came on board now, you're coaching all the time. How does that affect you? Like, is that something you're really enjoying? Are you seeing it going somewhere?
I really enjoy it because I've always did a lot of different types of
doing
coaching.
it anyway, naturally.
And I was doing like little small classes and stuff at the prison, but I had always wanted to do it here because, I love what we do so much.
Yeah.
So being that I started doing it, I like it even more. And I feel like a lot of times I can relate to people a little bit more, being that I come from the same spot that they come from, just starting out a lot of times or learning different movements, just like yesterday with Vega and I can't remember the young lady's name. They was just working on toes to bar and then, trying to show them different ways of everything that we do. If you do the technique, it'll work.
Yeah.
When you try to overthink the technique, you're going to have problems all the time.
If you try to look at it from the outside, it doesn't work.
It doesn't work. So that aspect, just seeing them be like, oh, okay, now I see what you're talking about, that really makes me feel good that I'm helping somebody to help themselves do better. So, yeah, I've loved it ever since I started. I had been wanting to do it a long time, and then I was just like, I might as well. Since I'm here every doggone day, I might as well do something extra.
Yeah, I like where we're headed, man. I know we've had a couple conversations about adding some weapons training and stuff and having you lead that up.
Mm-hmm.
We've changed and rebranded over the last couple of years into Iron Legion Strength and Combat. For me, the human performance and the peak of functional fitness is going to be being able to use your body properly. So combatives, martial arts, different things like that. But the evolution of that, obviously having your strength and conditioning background, your martial arts background, but eventually combatives with weapons, right?
Yeah.
Adding in knives, adding in guns, and teaching regular civilians how to handle themselves, protect themselves, not just going out buying a gun, throwing it in their glove box and hoping for the best when it works out, right?
Yeah.
Or buying a shotgun for house protection and never firing it, or not even using it, not even knowing how to load it, right? Simple, normal shit that goes a long way if they just had a place where they could train it. And that's something that you and I have talked about, is creating and developing that here at Iron Legion, so that we have an occasional class where people can come in and we can work some weapons work. We can, maybe get on target a few times, maybe do some functional movement with those types of things, get comfortable with our weapons, not necessarily firing them all the time, but moving and getting comfortable with something as deadly as that, so that we're more responsible as owners.
Well, the biggest thing, especially when it comes to weapons training, people think just because I shoot, I'm going to get better. I know plenty of people that shoot all the time that can't hit the wide side of a barn with a damn cannonball.
Right.
You know what I mean? It comes down to.
I can tell you every couple recently at my hunting camp. Yeah.
Yeah, they think just cause I shoot all the time I can shoot, and I notice it even in training like the academies and stuff like that, and you tell them, you like, well, who shot before, and you see all the hands come up, and then we actually get out there in the range and they can't even hit the target.
Right.
And then we have somebody that never picked up a gun before be the top gun in the class. Because they haven't picked up any of those bad habits.
I see.
But
Yeah.
just looking at just in the news in the last week or so, shootings, stabbings, if you're not able to defend yourself in that aspect, you're almost hurting yourself.
Yeah.
So it's just the fact of learning how to draw from a concealed weapon standpoint, learning how to deal with yourself with somebody come at you with a knife just to protect yourself. But the biggest thing about knife defense is you're gonna get cut. You just gotta minimize where you get cut.
Right.
You know what I mean?
Yeah.
So if I could teach somebody to keep that knife away from them, or subdue that person that has the knife, it helps them out a little bit more. But like you say, people buy a gun and then they think just because they go to the range, they're gonna be able to fire it. But if you don't put yourself in a high stress level, you're not gonna be able to do it.
Right.
I've done training where we've had other instructors that were defensive type instructors when we was learning how to use our weapon, even on the person with a knife. People don't understand how fast somebody could get on top of you with a knife. Within the 10 foot, you got to think, the fastest sprinter, 100 meters, how fast is that? I think like the fastest time, like just under 9 seconds.
Yeah, that's a lot of time actually.
That's a lot of time, but put that in less than 20 yards.
Oh yeah.
You know what I mean? So you looking at 1-2 seconds?
Right.
Can you get your weapon out in 1 or 2 seconds, get a
Right.
round off? You know what I mean?
Yeah, and
people
then actually get on target.
Yeah, and people get on target, be able to get out, and especially if you don't have one in the chamber.
Yeah.
But say you have one in the chamber and your weapon's jammed, what you gonna do then?
Right.
You know, people don't think about it in that aspect. They think, oh, I got a gun, he got a knife. What can he do?
Yeah.
You got somebody less than, because even at my age, I know I can run under 5 seconds in 40 yards.
Right.
So
I'm gonna get you.
I'm gonna get you.
Get on top of
So,
you before you even get it out.
Yeah. So
out of your glove box or
if
wherever.
you're not used to getting that draw, getting it out, dealing in certain situations of having a jam weapon, clearing that weapon, you can see on YouTube videos plenty of times officers in firing situation, that weapon jamming, what they do.
Yeah.
So yeah, that would be, just working with dummy rounds in a controlled situation, just learning how to get that weapon out, firing a weapon, clearing a weapon, all that kind of stuff will help you stay alive a lot better than just going out in the range and shooting all that.
So just as valuable for civilians.
Oh,
It doesn't
even more.
Yeah.
Because we've changed a lot of our training also, because you got to think most firing situations is going to happen less than 40 yards sometimes, less than 25 yards. And I've seen people that can't hit the wide side of a barn within 25 yards.
Yeah.
Can't hit nothing.
Right.
So if you end up in those situations, if you don't know how to use that weapon, and firing a weapon comes a lot more than just your training of your body than just center range.
Just being calm,
Round down. Yeah,
under pressure, training to be calm under pressure,
Mhm.
all of that type of stuff.
Once your adrenaline goes up, all those fine motor skills goes out the window. And a lot of that stuff is just fine motor skills of getting the weapon out, chambering a weapon, squeezing that trigger.
Yeah.
So you jerk the trigger, rounds go everywhere.
Yep.
Yeah. So yeah, we talked about it, and there's a lot of training systems that I've been through. I've done hours of training that can help somebody to understand the aspect of your fight or flight, saving your life, when to fire, should you fire.
Right.
You know what I mean? And gauging a situation quickly, because you have to be. A lot of people always want to judge police officers on stuff that they do a lot of time when they fire that weapon, but you never been in a situation where your life might be on the line and you don't know which way or the other. So
Exactly
yeah.
right. I'm looking forward to seeing that coming here. Once we get it all developed and we can start introducing it to the members, I'm pretty pumped about that.
Yeah.
But talking about, law enforcement, police, different things like that. As we talked about in Haley's podcast and a couple of other podcasts that we've had in the past, the news puts it one way. Perception is reality. And, I'm more of a common sense guy. I would rather grab a guy and say, how is it out there? When I know that I have people in my facility or on my staff or part of my membership that are actually out there living the life, I can get an actual real take versus trying to hear it on the news.
Yeah.
So, after the whole George Floyd thing and cities were burning down, police officers were under scrutiny. They were getting a ton of attention, and people were defund the police, and let's burn these cities down. You had Black Lives Matter going on, and everything just seemed really crazy and chaotic, and the fucking media had a field show with it, right? And this was all during COVID, and I think we were in here when we were supposed to be shut down. We were training because we don't listen to that shit, but you and I had a conversation. I literally just asked you. I was like, "What's your opinion on that?" Obviously, you're black. I don't know if it's be a shock to anybody. But
I don't know what kind of rock you've been living on.
Yeah, but like I'm just curious as a guy in your position, and I asked you, I was like, "What do you think about all that shit?" Like the police position and the changes to go out and destroy your city and burn shit down from the root. I don't really understand. Can you explain what you think?
From my aspect, and I'm going to speak definitely for myself, that aspect I never understood. Now, marching and stuff like that, I get that.
Yeah.
But my whole aspect of the whole thing is, why are we only marching on that? You know what I mean? There are bad people in every aspect of life. There are bad people in every aspect of where you got law enforcement, firefighters, paramedics, doctors, nurses, teachers,
yeah.
Even custodian. They're always bad people. You can't judge a whole group of people off for certain bad apples. Yeah, some of those people probably shouldn't have their job. They should have been gotten rid of. The George Floyd situation, the whole thing was messed up all the way around, but the actions of that supervisor was the main problem, and what he did shouldn't have been done. But to burn down the city just because of that doesn't. I don't get that part of it.
Right.
My whole aspect, and when I look at, I don't even talk about Black Lives Matter movement, because my thing is, just on New Year's we had 2 young men get killed. And just so happened our kids were there when it happened. So I ain't seen one march.
No.
We have people killed every week, and you only gonna pick one aspect of it to march on. You gonna have one bit to be outraged on. We need to be outraged by every life that goes, especially on our side, because we take each other's lives more than just about anybody. And we're not. And if you're not gonna speak on that, I don't want to hear you talk about that.
Right.
Okay, if you dead wrong police officers that do stuff that they shouldn't do, they should be punished. But if we're gonna march on one thing, we need to march on all of it. And until we start policing ourselves, how can we talk about somebody else? And that's my whole aspect of it. You sit here and glorify, people that do that kind of stuff, and you hold them up on high standards. Oh, free this person, free that person. It's a bad person. He needs to be in jail.
Right.
You know what I mean? So that was my whole thing about it. I didn't agree with what that officer did, but I also didn't agree with a lot of the reactions. And a lot of times in those protests, it wasn't really the main protesters that caused the problem. It was the ones that just wanted to look for a reason to mess up stuff.
Right.
So they used the march as a way of doing it, and it didn't make it look any better. So that was my whole big problem with the whole situation is we need to start policing ourselves. Yeah, and you can't get rid of. You talking about defunding the police department. Understand what you're saying when you talking about defunding the police department. You need to understand what part that you're trying to defund, because I'm telling you, if I got a problem, the first thing I'm dialing is 911. Yeah, I'm gonna handle that problem, but I'm gonna call the police. And you sit here and say that, oh, F this part of the police, I don't like the police, this, that, and other. But then when you have a problem, the first one that you call is the police department.
Right.
Not all police officers are bad. Do we have some buttholes that wear the uniform? Yeah. But we have buttholes everywhere. And how you react a lot of times dealing with the police department also determines what happens. If you're automatically mad the moment that you deal with this person, you got to understand that police officer, even though he wear a badge, he's still human too.
Yep.
And you want him to see you as human. So that interaction should be the same. Don't get mad because you got caught.
Right. Right.
and that pisses me off the most. Okay, you were in wrong. Now you're mad. Hey, just take it.
Right.
Just take it. It is what it is. But like I was saying, as far as that aspect, I've never been a proponent for that, because until we start marching on the stuff that we're doing to ourselves, I'm not finna get in the middle of that other stuff.
Right, and you were talking about, like, we were talking about how would you actually make change. Right? So if you're tearing a city down to try to make change, your point was go into the organization.
Yeah.
Start from the bottom up. If I'm a young black male or a local kid in an area and I don't like the way I'm being treated, right?
Have the right people,
get the right people in the right seats.
And you brought that back to me, because I noticed like a lot of times, especially when I'm teaching a law enforcement class, when I have other black males or black females that are in that class, I'm telling them, don't let your friends deter you from what you're trying to do, because they're gonna try to say, oh, you a snitch, you this, that, and the other, you Uncle Tom, this, that, and the other. Okay, you want policing done the right way. Why not have your own people do the right policing? That because they know of the situation.
Yes.
They know your area. They know what you're dealing with. Why don't you want your own to govern you?
Right.
Why you want to depend on something else? Because they're not in there, they can't help you.
Right.
You know what I mean? And a lot of times when certain situations, I even find it in myself, not just because of where I am or my position. You have a lot of people that once they get upset, they can't bring themselves down, regardless of black, white, or whatever. Once they get in a certain situation, once they're up there, if they don't have a cool mind to come in there to pull them out of that situation, it's going to get worse.
Yep.
So when you have your own people go in there to help build a thing and help it get right, it's not going to get any better. Stop telling your sons and daughters not to be a police officer, not to be a correctional. I had to tell a couple of staff the other day, because staff shortage is so bad, and I was like, okay, how many of y'all have told anybody in your family to come join the department? And none of them would raise a hand. Oh, I don't want them to come work here. So why are you working here?
Right.
You know what I mean? So why are you here? I was like, and a lot of times y'all don't get along with one another. Bring somebody here that you know you're gonna get along with, and then we all can work together. The same thing with the police department. Oh, I don't like the police department. But if you know you went to school with so and so, and he pulls you over, now you know. Okay, now I can talk to him. Now he gonna come up to you like, hey man, what are you doing?
Yeah.
You know what I mean?
Yeah, and you're making change from the inside.
Inside, you need them, and a lot of my people don't. Some of them don't. A lot of them do, but some of them don't understand. Until the only way you're gonna fix things is to be a part of the thing. If you're not a part of the thing, you're not fixing anything. You're just sitting there, bitch moaning and griping about it, and you're not fixing nothing.
Right. Probably making it worse.
Probably making it even worse.
Yeah.
So yeah.
So they were great points that were brought up, and I just kind of wanted to get that out there for everybody.
Yeah.
And so Wayne Smith, just wanted to get him out there, show you guys, another stellar example of Iron Legion training right here. A good dude to have on the team. A lot of insight. I'm definitely going to have him on as a guest again here in the future. I feel like he has a lot more stories to tell. A great mentor, obviously, to a lot of people in the corrections business and even out there in the collegiate world, different things like that. So look for a lot more from Wayne Smith here at Iron Legion with our defense systems and different things that will be coming up here pretty soon. And we will catch you on the next episode of Forging Better Humans podcast.